Today, Pride celebrations attract millions of people around the world. But for much of modern history, being a man who loves other men could cost you your freedom, your career, your reputation, or even your life. So, how did we go from criminalization to visibility? Hey, class! Welcome to A Broad Sex Education, the sex education you deserve that actually makes sense. I'm your host, sex educator, and guide to gay history, Sin. And today, my co-host is Brooklyn.
Yay! Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this episode.
Yep, had to have you on this one. This podcast is a sex education resource for adults. We have real, inclusive conversations about human sexuality, pleasure, relationships, gender, identity, and more. Some topics may feel explicit or sensitive, especially in today's lesson where we mention discrimination, criminalization, police harassment, homophobia, HIV/AIDS, and the persecution of LGBTQ plus people. Please take care while listening. Our goal is to break the stigma and offer the kind of sex education many of us never got. We're learning too, and bringing what we learn here so we can all grow together. You deserve to know what this is about so you can make an informed choice to listen. Or not. That's what consent looks like, even here. All right. So, today's Lesson 16, Gay History, from Criminalization to Pride, where we'll explore how different societies understood relationships between men, how criminalization spread around the world, and how generations of activists, writers, artists, and communities fought for visibility. I know you're excited for this one. Any initial thoughts?
I'm very excited. I know some of the topics are really heavy and like very sad, so I'm braced for that, but I'm very excited.
I also have included a couple artists, and I just wanted to get your feedback if you know about them.
Is one of them a street artist that died of HIV?
Yeah.
I do know about him.
And then Tom of Finland.
I don't think I know that one.
You don't know Tom of Finland?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm really surprised.
Maybe I'll recognize his work.
I don't have too many depictions of his work, but I can show them to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I'm excited.
I
I'm
feel
gonna
like
I'm gonna look him up.
Look up Tom of Finland's artwork right now.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is your vibe. Like, this is what I would anticipate you would have.
Oh, okay. So I have seen his work. I've almost purchased it at stores because it's a lot of like scantily clad men. It is right up my alley. You're correct. I do know his work. I have seen his work. I've sent it to my male friends that are in the Navy because there's a lot of, oh yeah, I'm not gay, I'm just in the Navy, jokes like that. So yes, I love his work. He's amazing. What I've seen of his has been like a coffee table book where you can like flip through and it has a ton of his work.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get into him in a second. This isn't a comprehensive history, but an exploration of a historical journey. So there is a bit of a narrative here, obviously from criminalization to pride, but there is much more history than this, and these are just going to be more of a brief overview for people.
What era are we starting in?
So we're actually going to be starting with geography.
Okay.
We're going to explore how different cultures and societies understood the relationships between men across time and place. And then we're going to go into history, where we're going to trace the journey from criminalization and persecution to activism, visibility, and community resistance. And then at the end, we're going to have a pop quiz.
Ah, yay.
Before we start with geography and history, I just wanted to define gay and homosexual. Both of these terms mean men who are romantically and sexually attracted to other men. And the term gay is used as a sense of community and culture versus the term homosexual. That's a more historical and academic term. And it's usually seen a lot in law, medicine, psychology, and early sexology. And it appears throughout the sources I'll be discussing. The picture in this slide is a drawing by Tom of Finland. It features two men. One of them is sitting down with a leather jacket on, and it's cut off at the part that you would see his genitals. But then there's another man behind him looking down at him in a very seductive manner, I would say. His artwork is really important to the gay community is because a lot of the gay community was associated with being feminine, and his artwork helped people see that they don't fit this box of what a gay man is. His artwork shows really like jacked, attractive men.
It's very, so I'm glad you said that because I feel like you always hear that, like, oh, women's bodies are so beautiful, but men's aren't. And I'm like, if it looks like that, yeah, it is though. Like nobody's drawing women that like aren't in great shape,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, not anymore anyways. And these guys have their waxed, they're manscaped. You only see like a hint of bush on that one guy.
Yeah.
And they have abs and like pecs and really giant arms. And both of them have like rock hard nipples, which doesn't make them masculine or feminine, but it's like they're both aroused.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I think he's really capturing like the male physique in a masculine way
Mhm.
and showing its beauty, but not in like a feminine way.
Right. At the Met Gala recently, Tom Hanks dressed up in a Tom of Finland inspired outfit.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
The theme of the Met Gala this year was life imitating art.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a kid, I was told that gay was a term that came about because it meant like they were happy. So it was like a self-identified word by the gay community. Is that true, or was that just like my parents putting a spin on it?
I don't know if it was a word reclaimed by the gay community, but initially the word gay meant happy.
Yeah.
I can definitely look it up right now. It says, in 1920s, during the time when homosexuality was widely condemned, the homosexual community started using the word gay as like a code to survive.
It's like, I'm feeling gay or whatever. And then that was a code within the community that they could communicate, so then the other man knew he was safe or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Another code phrase that for gay men to communicate, I don't remember the time exactly, but was the friend of Dorothy.
That one you've mentioned before on podcasts.
Yeah.
At like brothels specifically?
It was the way for gay men to identify each other, especially within the Navy. There was a period of time where the head Navy officers realized they had a bunch of gay people and they were like, we need to find them. And so they would go.
I know this story. It's amazing.
Yes. They were trying to investigate to find all these gay people, and they kept hearing about this person named Dorothy, and they were like, who is this? Where do we find Dorothy? And so they thought Dorothy was just like a woman that had all the connections and like knew all the gay community.
She was popular.
Yeah. And she was the one that like had all the connections with all the gay men that were in the Navy, so they wasted a bunch of money just trying to find this
Dorothy.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Right. The term it either came from Dorothy Parker, who was a writer in the 1920s, because she would have parties at her house and would invite queer people and told them, oh, just tell them you're a friend of Dorothy when you come to the door.
When you say she...
Dorothy Parker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The author.
The author.
Oh, okay.
And people think it came from Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, because a lot of gay men identified with Judy Garland's life because they just identified with her real life and her struggles. Also, The Wizard of Oz is super gay.
It is.
It's so gay.
It is. Like the lion?
Yeah.
Come on. He's a friend of Dorothy.
Yeah.
You know it.
All right. So let's start with that geography section now. So geography.
I love the graphics of this slide.
Thanks. It's all rainbows.
Every time that you turn one, I'm like, oh, I think it's magic.
So we have to start with ancient Greece, because I feel like a lot of people know this one enough. So in ancient Greece, there were 5 different types of same-sex relationship that were common. There were men with boys, men with men, boys with other boys, women with girls, and women with women. In a lot of these times, the instances where there would be men with boys and women with girls, they were in a mentorship capacity.
Like an apprentice mentor
Yeah.
for a job?
It would be in either education, culture, or military.
Oh, okay.
So in culture, it could be like showing them how to be like a man in society.
Okay.
It's called pedestry when it's a relationship between a older person and a younger person. Obviously, I'm not condoning this, and I'm not trying to like associate this.
Just a part of history.
Yeah, this is a part of history, and this is just a point to recognize.
Yes.
When it came to the military, they believed that the passing of semen made great warriors.
Because why did they think that?
Because if someone was already a good warrior, if they had a mentee, like them passing on their semen to their mentee made them a great warrior. Yeah. Obviously, we know this is not true. And
It kind of, I mean, if you didn't know that much about science, like at that time, that would kind of make sense. You're like, I just know this makes babies.
right.
And like, that has my DNA in it. Like, that's what I know. I don't have a word for DNA, but it has like my genetic code or whatever in there. So like, that kind of makes sense if you're an ancient Greek person.
Yeah. But there were other instances of men who were in relationships with men in ancient Greece, not just the ones where there were men with boys. So in 8th century BC, Philolaus of Corinth was a lawmaker who created laws to support same-sex unions. It was common in a lot of areas, but there were still some regions that were not as accepting of it. Athens at the time was not positive of the.
I actually didn't know that. That's interesting because I thought they all were in agreement about all of the rules.
No.
Yeah. And my limited knowledge on this is basically like I think it was the British Museum. They had an exhibit on like the history of gay art, and they had like paintings and all of that. So I have very limited knowledge. So this is very interesting.
Yeah. In 378 BCE, there was a formation of the Sacred Band of Thebes, which is an army of 150 gay couples. So
Okay.
they were like all partners. They were just off going to war together with each other. It was
And
like
but they were just like coupled up and monogamous to each other, or it was like kind of a like poly situation.
I'm not entirely sure if it was a poly situation. It could have been, but there was essentially 300 gay men that fought in a war together. They fought in a lot of battles together.
You guys should do that again.
We would support that.
Yeah.
In this slide, there are depictions of ancient Greece pots that have gay sex on them. That's pretty much ancient Greece's experience with gay history. But they weren't the only civilization with different ideas about sexuality. Rome also developed its own set of expectations as well. So in ancient Rome, they didn't necessarily believe it mattered if you slept with people of the same sex. They cared about the status. So they believed that people were either masculine or passive. And
Interesting.
yeah, status mattered more to them. They didn't even necessarily call it homosexuality.
So let's say there was a man that was married to like a high status woman, but he had men on the side. Was that still frowned upon if the like man on the side was not of high status?
If they were like a slave or of lower status, it would be fine.
Because he was married to a woman that
No,
was of
not
high
even
status.
because he was a married woman, just because he was a high status, because he was masculine.
Oh, so it's okay. Okay, so this is interesting. So it's like the slave doesn't have any like respect in that society anyway. So he already, it doesn't matter. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So this was a very patriarchal. And so any adult male who enjoyed being a bottom or giving someone a blowjob lacked virtus, which is a virtue of valor, masculinity, excellence, courage, character, or worth.
I feel like this still lingers a little bit in society. This is so interesting
Yeah.
that it started then and there's still that stigma.
When I was studying this, I was like, is this why all the straight men are always thinking about Rome? Like, like how often do you think they're thinking about this?
I'm going to say that next time. You're thinking about the Roman Empire, thinking about those hot, steamy gay scenes. No, I am. Same.
But same-sex marriage was not recognized by the government. It still happened, but it was just not recognized by the government.
Okay.
They believed that penetration was the only sexual activities, so female homosexuality was not bothersome to them. They didn't care.
Because it was so patriarchal. They were like, we don't really care what women do because they don't matter to us.
Right.
That makes sense.
The last episode we did lesbian history.
Yeah.
And as we saw in that episode, they didn't want to acknowledge it. It was funny because when I was talking to Asa, they were like, female sexuality doesn't exist with men, let alone with women.
That makes sense. So
Julius Caesar was rumored to have engaged in passive homosexual activity with the king of Nicomedes, the fourth of Bithynia. And so to make fun of him, people called him the Queen of Bithynia.
So it turns out he was impaled before Brutus. Were him and Brutus involved at all?
I don't know.
Because like the fact that he specifically felt so betrayed by Brutus, I feel like maybe.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be my theory.
There was a law called Lex Scatenia that penalized freeborn men from taking a passive role in sex. So it was illegal for men of status.
So it was fine if you were the penetrator, though.
It was fine if you were the masculine, the
Yes.
penetrator, the top, but it was not okay for freeborn men of status to be bottoms.
Is that because, like, a woman would, in theory, also take a penis?
Because it was a very domineering position
Mm-hmm.
that's the only suitable role for these strong male warriors at the time. And so anything that didn't represent that virtus.
They didn't believe in power bottoms.
No.
I'm here for the bottoms. You guys.
They were missing out. That's
Yeah.
what their ace spot is.
Yeah.
They were missing.
Right? Like, what?
Julius Caesar knew what he was missing.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't missing it. Because,
Right.
yeah.
He knew what they were missing out on. There is another piece of pottery that also depicts gay sex. The two men here on the statues, Hadrian and Antonius, were a gay Roman couple. And they were like a mentor-mentee relationship too. They always depicted mentor-mentee relationships in ancient Rome with a man with a beard. Because you were not officially a man until you could grow a full beard at that time.
I know some adult men that can't grow a full beard.
Well,
I'm going to send them this episode. Don't edit that out. What was their deal?
they were the most famous same-sex couple in Roman history.
Wow.
Hadrian was a Roman emperor. Antonius drowned in the Nile.
Oh,
That's sad.
that is.
He was so distraught that he publicly mourned. Yeah. So that's how homosexuality was interpreted in Rome. It was okay as long as that it was masculine.
Right. Yeah. To me is the most interesting part because I feel like that's still such a part of certain cultures.
Mm-hmm. Some historians believe that gay marriage was accepted until the late imperial period, until Christianity came, which is around 4th century AD. So once Christianity came, as we all know, that's when homosexuality was unknown. For centuries, attitudes towards relationships between married men varied across cultures, but eventually there was a new force that reshaped the laws around the world.
Ugh.
So we have to talk about the impact of colonialism. So I've included King Henry VIII, not because he was gay, but just because his breakaway from the Catholic Church really influenced that. But we'll get into it.
This guy.
Yeah.
Causing so many problems.
Right. So many countries who criminalize homosexuality today, or who have historically criminalized homosexuality, have these laws because they were British colonies. And these were how people who were colonized essentially assimilated to the culture. Because some cultures were like more open, and then the British came and they were like, no.
It was like specifically the British.
The British and the French also.
The French also didn't like it.
The French decriminalized consensual gay sex in 1791, but imposed sodomy laws in the places they colonized, Benin, Cameroon, and Senegal, as a form of social control.
Oh.
The first reference in English law is from two medieval treatises, Fleda in 1290 and then Breton in early 14th century. They basically said that sodomy, anal sex.
Yeah. So what was their reasoning, I guess, behind that specific type of sex? Because it didn't lead to procreation.
It didn't lead to procreation.
And then, what about if it was not between two men?
Any sex that did not lead to procreation was frowned upon.
Including blowjobs?
Right.
Oh.
In these two treatises, sodomy was considered an offense against God and punishable by being buried alive or burned alive. And this was
my God.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Calm down, you guys.
I can't say this word, ecclesiastical law.
I don't think I've ever heard this word in my life.
I haven't either. So, anyway, moving on.
There was a law.
Yeah, it starts with the E, and that's what it sounds like.
Thank God that's not going to come up in Wordle later.
But in 1533, when King Henry VIII decided to break away from the Catholic Church, he incorporated the Buggery Act, which was a law that made sodomy still an offense by God, but it was punishable by death. And this was the first civil sodomy law.
And this was by death. This was not like buried alive or set on fire. This
No.
was just like
This
any
was
type of death.
death.
Huh.
Yeah. They briefly went back to the ecclesiastical law after Queen Mary came in 1533, but then Queen Elizabeth in 1563 brought the Buggery Act back instead. And this,
Just like sisters fighting.
yeah, and this is the foundation for sodomy laws around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, or at least the ones that have been colonized by the British.
Right, which is like a whole bunch of places.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like different parts, but all over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Technically us too.
Yeah.
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 But
Now look at us having all kinds of sodomy.
yeah, they updated it with the Offenses Against the Person Act in 1828, and they made it so that instead of death, it would be life imprisonment or 10 years of hard labor.
Wow. This is also interesting because I don't know why I never like thought about what was going on during King Henry VIII, like amongst gay couples. But I feel like my knowledge is so based on like recent history of like obviously the criminalization and all of the suffering that went along with it there. But I didn't realize it started this far back and that it was still like punishable by death and horrible things like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what me and Asa said in the last episode is gay history. For a lot of people, it starts at Stonewall.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is why I wanted to do these lessons because there's like so much more before that people don't realize.
Right. Yeah. And it has impacted like our country, even though it wasn't happening in our country.
Right.
It's like the origin of them coming and colonizing here has affected it.
As these laws spread, relationships between men increasingly became matters for courts, prisons, and public scandal. And of course, we have to talk about one of the major scandals at the time was the trials of Oscar Wilde.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know about these?
I have heard the rumors that he was gay.
Oh, just for the sake of this episode and doing research on him, I don't want to necessarily say he's gay. I do think that he may, and this is speculation, he was married to a woman.
Yes.
And he did have children. So I believe he may have been like bi or pan because I don't necessarily think he only slept with gay men, but his whole trial, this was like really sad. It was really fucked up. Oscar Wilde is a very famous poet, playwright, novelist, and was a celebrity in the 19th century. One of his most notable works is the portrait of Dorian Gray. He had a homosexual affair with this man that's also depicted in the picture on the lower left, whose name is Lord Alfred Douglas. Douglas's dad was the Marquess of Queensberry, and he didn't like the relationship between the two of them. He threatened to disown his son if he didn't end the friendship. And of course, his son was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. And when he didn't, the Marquess was being an asshole about it. So one of the first things he did was the Marquess owned a amateur boxing ring thing, kind of like the guy from The Bridgerton season 1.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you were describing that. I was like, I've seen this episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
He brought one of his boxers to Oscar's Wilde house to start like an argument, to start a fight. And when it got really heated, Oscar Wilde was basically like, I'm going to shoot you if you don't leave. And they ended up leaving. Oscar Wilde was already married by this point too. But when he was going to debut his play, The Importance of Being Earnest, the Marquess planned to make a scene. He was basically like, I'm going to go to the opening night of this. I'm going to make a scene. I'm going to out him to everyone there. Like, he was just ready to be like, he's a gay
Also,
man.
like you're at a theater outing a man. Like, okay, if you think he's the only gay man there.
But it was interesting because he didn't have any, like, exact proof.
Yeah.
He was just like, he's a
He
homosexual.
speculated.
Yeah.
And that was enough to be a damning rumor at that time. Yeah.
And so he planned to make the scene, but Oscar Wilde found out and hired a bunch of police to block him from coming in.
Great.
Yeah, because he was rich. Like,
Yeah.
he had money.
He was smart and rich and was like, yeah, we're not going to play these games.
Yeah, I will shoot you. if you
Yeah,
don't leave.
I feel like that is a really great, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the coolest story ever.
Yeah. After that, the Marquess left a card at a club that Oscar Wilde and his wife would frequent. And the card said, to Oscar Wilde, posing as a sodomite. Oscar Wilde was pissed and he was like, fine, I'm going to sue this guy for defamation.
Mm-hmm.
The first trial, it wasn't a trial against Oscar Wilde. It was a trial against the Marquess for defamation. And during the entire trial, Oscar Wilde wasn't taking the rumors about him being a sodomite seriously because he was like, oh, it's all a lie, even though, like, he was technically having a relationship with the...
But nobody knew. Like, there was no actual proof anyway.
Before all of this went down, Lord Alfred Douglas was in college when he met, I believe. That he was, like, going to college. And at some point, he let a friend borrow his jacket. And in that jacket, there were some letters from Oscar Wilde. And the letters were... They sounded like love letters, but they weren't, like, explicitly love letters. That college kid, like, extorted Oscar Wilde.
I see.
That didn't come into play in the trial, but there is a record of him being
There's a little bit of a
extorted.
paper trail.
Yeah.
And was the Marquess straight, we think?
Yeah, because I believe he was married.
Well, so was Oscar Wilde.
Yeah.
But because he was, like, so fixated and obsessed with it, that I was like, was he...
He was
I guess as far as we know, there were not rumors about him.
He was just known to be really eccentric and just kind of an asshole.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the first trial, Oscar Wilde was accused for soliciting 12 young men to commit sodomy. But then after 3 days, Oscar Wilde's lawyer dropped the trial, which was seen as a sign of implicit guilt, which led to the indecency trials. So before the second trial, a bunch of his friends were like, leave, go to France, because France is open-minded. Like,
love that, yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm going to do the trial.
Yeah.
He pled not guilty to 25 counts of gross indecency. And during a preliminary bail hearing, some hotel staff and housekeepers testified to seeing young men in his bed and fecal matter in his sheets.
Wow.
There was no verdict during that trial, so it ended up getting retried again for the third trial. And then the third time, he was convicted with 2 years of hard labor. So he had to do 2 years of hard labor. And it was a clear change because in the first trial, he was, like, really jokey. He was, like, not taking it seriously. But then in the second, third trial, he was, like, really, like...
Yeah, it was, like,
quiet.
wearing on him.
Yeah. And so this was just an example of how historically someone was being prosecuted for their relationships with another man.
Yeah. I think all this is so sad because it's like these people were either, like, killed or forced castration or got HIV just for, like, loving somebody. And that's always the thing that I think is so sad about all of this.
Right. Agree. After he got out, he didn't live very long after that.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. He became broke and all this stuff. Like, he lost a lot because of this whole situation. So it really sucked. Yeah.
And he stayed in England after?
No, he left. He traveled more. He was, like, doing stuff. The pictures that I have is, one, a picture of Oscar Wilde, a picture with Oscar Wilde and Lord Alfred Douglas. And then this is a news clipping from his trial. Since he was, like, such a celebrity, it was, like, such a big deal at the time.
Yeah. I actually have never seen the top picture where it's just him. I was like, oh, that's a really cool photo. I've seen the one of him and Lord Alfred Douglas before. I've seen, like, that's, I feel like, the most famous one of him, but I've never seen the first photo, and it's really cool.
Yeah. He also was just known to wear, like, really lavish things.
Yeah. He was a fashion icon.
Yeah.
That's why the Marquess was hating on him.
And I think the Marquess also it was kind of a way to get money from the whole situation.
Oh, that could
or,
be,
like, to
like blackmail.
be known. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe, like, a little bit of jealousy from his fame and things like that.
Yeah.
That's also so weird to think about, that, like, something so private as what he was doing in the bedroom was, like, in a public court. Like, look at how many people are there talking about his sex life. That's crazy.
Right. Like, he's not hurting anyone. He's just sleeping with other men in his own private time. Writing books, writing plays, writing poetry, doing his own thing. And one person's like, he's gay.
Right.
And then now we have
put him on trial.
Yeah. We have to persecute him and ruin his life just because he's doing something in his own private hole.
Right.
Stupid.
Yeah, there's, like, so many people in those pictures too that are talking about it.
They're like, what do you mean? What kind of stuff? These are all the people that are interested.
What did you find?
Yeah.
What did he look like when he was in the bed?
How big was his penis?
Give us details. There's probably more illustrations of that.
Yeah. In our last stop for the geography lesson, we're going to be going into Berlin before World War II. So Post-World War I, between 1919 and 1933, Berlin had a lot of openly LGBTQ plus subcultures. They were not fully socially acceptable, but they were visible. It was known as the Weimar Republic. The man that I have on the screen is Magnus Hirschfeld. He co-founded the Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin in 1919, which offered research, education, counseling, and advocacy for LGBTQ plus rights.
Wow.
He was also a gay man as well. He really believed the foundation for this was love. I believe a lot of his works now maybe not be fully accurate, but for the time, the fact that he tried, it was one of those things like he tried
Right.
to research.
Yeah. And I did not expect this out of Germany.
Right.
Like, this is not at all what I would have anticipated. They're
Well-
not known for this.
Well, you'll expect this. In May 6 of 1933, the Nazi Party looted the institute, confiscated archives, and publicly burned thousands of books and research materials. They campaigned against degenerate ideas, quote unquote. This was one of the first major book burnings of the Nazi regime.
Wow. One of the first ones.
Yeah.
They destroyed so much,
Yeah.
like, quality stuff.
He did a lot of work for the trans community as well, but
And that's been lost.
it completely was lost
Wow.
and burned. Yeah.
Wow, that's so sad.
Yeah. So they ruined, the Nazis ruined everything.
It's crazy how much we are still impacted by all of the things that were lost because of them, and how much artwork is still missing and circulating who knows where within their families.
Right.
It's crazy that, like, we're still impacted by the destruction that they did.
Yeah. During the Holocaust, the Nazis would use a pink triangle to identify and prosecute gay men in the concentration camps. So that's like how they would label gay men.
Like, on their uniform that they
Mhm.
put them in.
Yeah.
I feel like I had heard that before.
Mhm. The pink triangle was reclaimed in the 1970s by the LGBTQ plus activists. The symbol of oppression was reclaimed to mean empowerment, resilience, and resistance, but it was also meant to be a badge of solidarity and a reminder of the past struggles of the people who were persecuted. That is Magnus Hirschfeld. I do want to do a deeper dive more into him and his work. Bummer that the Institute of Sexual Science is gone.
Yeah, and I wondered, like, percentage-wise, I don't know that we'll ever know this, but, like, how much did we lose of his work?
Majority of it.
That sucks.
Yeah. And then he ended up fleeing to Switzerland when they were like burning his institute.
So he got away.
He got away.
That's good.
Even after persecution, war, and the destruction of knowledge, queer voices continued to survive, which leads us into our history segment.
Yay!
We're going to be touching on U.S. history. Geography taught us all the other history.
That led to the U.S. history.
Yeah. So we're going to obviously start with the Stonewall Uprising. The Stonewall Uprising happened from June 28th to July 3rd of 1969 in Greenwich Village in New York. It happened at the Stonewall Inn bar. Fun fact I learned in the last episode, the mafia owned the Stonewall Inn bar at the time.
Wow.
Since they owned the bar, they bribed corrupt police officers because they wanted to open this gay bar. But because they knew this was an underserved community, they exploited the LGBTQ community by watering down drinks and upping prices. They didn't have running water, fire exits, or proper ventilation.
Uh-oh.
They would blackmail wealthy patrons who didn't want to be outed. Normally, when police would come to raid, the corrupt police officers would call the mafia and be like, hey, the police are coming. And so normally it was like blacklit and dark in the bar, but when they knew the police was coming, they would turn off the lights, and that's how people knew like to leave.
To get out.
Yeah. And a lot of the raids prior to this normally happened on weeknights in the early evenings. This Stonewall Uprising happened like on a Friday night. It was technically Saturday because it was like one in the morning.
Okay.
Where there was like a bunch of people already there.
Right.
And
this was an unusual time, obviously, because you said normally weeknights, like early evening.
yeah. The police came and they raided the bar, and it was really fucked up. Like, the police were inappropriately groping some of the lesbian women there.
Yeah.
They had a couple female police officers that would take people who were dressed in a way that was presenting of women to have them go check essentially check their
Oh my
genitals to make
God.
sure if they were actually women, because they were trans people were also illegal.
So
at
that
the
was
time.
like a different charge.
Yeah, so like they would arrest those people.
Yeah.
Mhm. They raided at a point where there was like a bunch of people, and people left the bar, but they stood outside. It started to attract a crowd, and it was in Greenwich Village, which was a much more liberal area.
Yeah.
There were just so many people that were not okay with what was happening that the police ended up having to barricade themselves in the Stonewall Inn because people were getting really upset and rioting.
They bit off more than they could chew.
Right.
And it was like, now you're in the gay bar.
Yeah. And at some point, because the gay community knew they were being exploited by the mafia, there was a point during the riots that they were throwing coins at police officers, being like, "Oh, the mafia is not paying you off," and then they just like, threw the coins, and they were just calling them pigs.
Yeah.
This essentially lit the match for more activism for LGBTQ rights. There was already activism happening before this, but really this was like the big spark.
Yeah, it kind of showed like there's power in numbers, and like they won. Like, you know what I mean? Like the police had to barricade themselves. So that is inspiring to, you know.
Yeah, it inspired a lot of people to openly join the gay liberation movement. Yeah. So I feel like this is the part of history when we talk about pride that people always put in the center and people really focus on. Next is going to be the AIDS crisis. I was reading about this and I was like, damn, this really pissed me off.
Yeah.
First and foremost, fuck Ronald Reagan.
For many reasons.
Yeah, because he's also the guy that's the reason why we have the American Family Life Act. I'm still pissed about it.
He's done a lot of things that we're still suffering the consequences of, like mental health, sexual health, gay health.
Yeah. In 1981, the first reports of a rare illness was reported in LA, New York, and San Francisco. It was in 1982 where the disease was finally given a name, and it was the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. I found out that because I was just like, they always talk about HIV/AIDS. HIV is the virus, and then AIDS is the disease.
Yeah, so like once it evolves into AIDS.
Yeah. But media referred it to the gay disease, which increased the stigma. Because we knew it transferred from sexual activity and essentially blood contact, it also was prevalent in a lot of sex workers and drug users. It also was prevalent with Haitian people and people who needed blood transfusions. Its impact on Haitian people, which is a whole can of worms of the Reagan administration being fucking racist as shit towards the Haitian immigrants coming to America at the time.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of just added on to this because they were like, let's not care about these people, you know, it's racism.
Yeah, I mean, all of it was like prejudice, right? And nobody was like helping these people. It's like crazy.
Yeah. The epidemic spread rapidly, and Ronald Reagan didn't respond until 1985. Took this bitch 4 years. Could you imagine if they didn't respond to COVID for 4 years?
I mean, I can't imagine because our president at the time didn't really handle it in a way that other leaders of other countries did.
Right.
So yes, I can imagine that.
Thousands of people had already died from AIDS at that point. Because of the stigma, some hospitals refuse to treat patients, and so communities like the lesbian nurse.
Is that legal to refuse to treat patients?
It's because they didn't know how it spread, so they were afraid to treat people.
That's right, because it was a big deal that Princess Diana was like hugging them and touching them because they didn't know how it spread.
Right. And other communities had to step up. So, and the last episode for lesbian history, I talked about how lesbian nurses were the ones who stepped up and helped care for the gay men at this time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
A lot of them were there to help during like hospice care. They also donated blood and then worked with blood banks to make sure that the blood would get sent to their patients who needed it from the AIDS. The patients needed them because they were doing a lot of blood tests and experimental treatments. In 1987, an activist group called ACT UP was founded in New York, and they were demanding the government respond and provide medical research into the AIDS crisis. For the picture on the slide of the black screen with the pink triangle, and it says silence equals death, that is an image from the ACT UP activism. So it was like one of the signs that they would have. And
That was
so,
like one of their actual.
yeah.
That's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Powerful.
And then another picture on this slide, it looks like a bunch of little squares, but it's actually the AIDS memorial quilt, and it debuted in Washington, D.C. to honor the people who were lost to AIDS. It helps people visualize the epidemic and see the names, faces, and stories of the people who passed on from AIDS.
Is each quilt square representative of a person, or is each quilt representative of a person that passed away?
There's a bunch of people within these tiny little squares.
That makes sense. Family that was from San Francisco would look at old pictures that they had and be like, who are these people? And it was like, oh, they passed away of AIDS. But there was so many of them that I was like, it really like kind of shows the impact of how many people just quickly were lost.
Yeah. It wasn't until 1996 where we had the highly active antiretroviral therapy that became available for people to manage the condition. So it's manageable now, but obviously it took a long time for people to do anything about it.
And for a long time, I remember people would be like, but look at Magic Johnson, he's fine. And it was like, he's so wealthy, of course he's doing okay, but not everybody had that resource. So it was like not a fair representation of it. And then I feel like JVN has been open about having it. And I was like, I feel like he's a better representative maybe than Magic Johnson. He has money now, obviously, but he grew up just a normal person.
Mm-hmm. In 1985, Rock Hudson was the first American celebrity to speak up about his AIDS diagnosis. Ooh. And he ended up passing away from
That's
AIDS.
so sad.
Yeah. The AIDS crisis was such a big deal because obviously it affected the gay community, but because it showed the government willingly not do anything for such a long time and not caring and not putting money or resource towards it. There's a picture of an artwork by Keith Haring, which I think is really cool. It's the pink triangle that we talked about earlier on a black screen, but in white outlines, there's different bodies of people who are doing the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil all over it. It's really cool. And it was a way for the visibility of what was happening to be pushed up to the forefront as well.
Yeah, Keith Haring's really cool because all of his symbols and like simple drawings that he did, there's almost like a cipher. And so it has different meanings and different like ways to communicate. And so like he would use big crowds in some of his work to communicate things. And it could be like love or like violence or power things. So it's really cool to see his work. He obviously also passed away of AIDS, but he was like a very famous street artist and really cool.
In the face of loss and stigma, communities, artists, and activists helped reshape how gay men were seen. But that is the end of our gay history lesson. Obviously, there's a lot more history. We just only have an hour. We only have a limited time. So,
and there's Pride every year, so you could do another episode honing in on like what people want to know more.
Right. So if you have anything you want to learn more about, let me know.
Yeah.
But what have we learned? So sexuality has been understood differently across cultures. Criminalization is a historical process and not a universal truth. Visibility can inspire change, and communities help drive progress, which I think is really important.
I also feel like the gay community is in my mind, I think one of the most powerful, iconic communities that I've ever experienced in my life. Like the way that they support each other and come together and like unite. There's so many like cool gay communities in different spots and different like pockets. Mm-hmm. So I think they really do represent the power of community if you have a good community that shows up for each other.
Yeah. Having done this lesson and then also learning about like the civil rights movement, I think that we're missing a lot of activism, like in-person activism. I think that's why like things aren't changing as much as they did in this time period, is because a lot of the activism that we have on now is just people online saying something or posting their opinion, making a video about it. Protests and activism has gotten more abstract, and if I had a time machine, I would love to go back to the activism of this time period, because the visibility of going out and speaking up and raising your voice and protesting, I think is so much more impactful, especially when you could do it as often. I was also watching like videos of protests. I'm like, wow, didn't they have jobs? Like, what were they doing?
Right. They could just afford to take a day off.
Well,
What?
I think we're so crushed by capitalism right now. We cannot afford to go out and protest, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to go. I feel like protesting is probably one of the best things that we can do. I think the LGBTQ plus community do a great job of showing up and speaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I respect it so much.
Yeah.
While we are, at least we specifically, are in a space where people can be out and be, proud about who they are, there is a sense of being pulled back. We're a lot more progressive than other societies have been, but it definitely feels like there is the weight of,
It feels like it's being threatened.
it's being threatened. Keep speaking up and speaking out on it because it's needed and it's obviously amazing.
Yeah. Love that. I would like to offer my services. I don't know what my services are, but I would love to be a small scale gay icon for the gay community because I love the community. I love gay icons.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what my services are, but like I want to be the valedictorian gay icon.
I'll make you a sticker that says I'm a gay icon.
Yeah, the sticker said so it's kind of true.
All right, ready for your pop quiz?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. 1. Which factor contributed to the spread of many anti-gay laws around the world? A. Ancient Greek philosophy. B. The Roman Empire. C. European colonial legal systems. Or D. The Stonewall Uprising.
C. European colonial legal systems.
That's right. A lot of the countries that still have laws against the LGBTQ community were colonies of the British Empire.
You guys should do away with those because those were your oppressors.
Yeah. You're free. So just don't subscribe to their laws. Number 2. What made Berlin during the Weimar Republic significant in LGBTQ history? It was the first country to legalize same-sex marriage. It was home to visible LGBTQ communities, activism, and research. It hosted the first Pride Parade. It was where the Stonewall Uprising occurred.
That Stonewall Uprising is going to be in everyone. B. It was home to visible LGBTQ communities, activism, and research.
That's correct. Number 3. Which event best demonstrates that progress in LGBTQ history is not always permanent? A. Ancient Greece. B. Oscar Wilde's writings. C. The destruction of the Institute for Sexual Science by the Nazis. Or D. The creation of the AIDS memorial quilt.
This is a great question because it shows how quickly it can be destroyed and taken a step back. C. The destruction of the Institute for Sexual Science by the Nazis.
That's correct. And it was destroyed. Number 4. Oscar Wilde's conviction for gross indecency is best understood as an example of which larger trend discussed in today's lesson? A. The growing visibility of LGBTQ communities during the Weimar Republic. B. The influence of colonial laws on modern governments. C. The criminalization of relationships between men in the late 19th century. Or D. The rise of AIDS activism.
I'm going to say C. The criminalization of relationships between men in the late 19th century.
That's correct. Awesome. And then the last one. Which statement best summarized the central theme of today's lesson? A. Gay history began with Stonewall. B. Relationships between men have always been viewed the same way. C. LGBTQ rights were achieved primarily through government action. Or D. The history of gay men reflects the changing attitudes, criminalizations, and struggles for visibility.
I'm going to say D. The history of gay men reflects changing attitudes, criminalization, and struggles for visibility.
That's correct. D. The history of gay men reflects changing attitudes, criminalization, and struggles for visibility. You got 5 out of 5.
Hell yeah.
Look at you, valedictorian.
Gay icon.
That's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening, everyone. Happy Pride. Did you learn anything new?
I learned a lot of new stuff. That was a really cool lesson. I didn't know that the lesbian nurses were the ones that took care of the men during the AIDS epidemic. Mm-hmm. I also learned more details about Oscar Wilde, and I didn't know how, I guess I knew that England had outlawed homosexuality, but I didn't know how far back it started and how that infiltrated the rest of the world. So that was really interesting. I learned a lot. There was a lot of things that I learned. It was a great episode.
Yay, I'm glad. This is part 2 of our continuation of this Pride Month celebration. And then next week is going to be the episode on transgender history.
Yeah.
That's it for today. Have any questions about human sexuality? Submit it anonymously using the link in the show notes. If this episode helped you understand something a little better, share it with a friend, because the best way to destigmatize sex is to talk about it. Follow the show to stay updated on future lessons. And if you want to go deeper, grab the Essential Sex Conversations workbook by joining the newsletter. Happy Pride Month!
Happy Pride Month. I'm proud of you all.
Yeah. Be out, be proud, and be gay, and be your true self.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.